Yes, yes, you are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. It is Tuesday, the 27th of January, 2026. And oh my goodness gracious, it's cold outside. You know what? There's all sorts of people who got yesterday off, who got today off. I mean, I don't understand why Hines County schools are closed, but they are cold. But you know who didn't have a day off? All the farmers. It is cold out there. Water lines are frozen. Cows and sheep need to eat. Chickens need to eat. They need water. And let me tell you, when you waking up out there, you're going out there. In Chicago, it wasn't so bad. I was used to it. But man, here it is just cold, cold, cold. Look, we are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. And we are streaming on YouTube. And we are streaming at wyab.com. So if you can't hear or if you can't hear the radio signal for whatever reason, go ahead and plug in and listen to us on the stream. Give me a follow on X. It's just at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. And the phone line today, if you want to be calling in and giving your opinion, we'd love to hear it at 601-879-0002. Text line is open 601-879-5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, it is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. And look, better is an open rebuke than a hidden love. Isn't that true? Isn't it better to know who your enemy is than wondering who's sitting there on the sideline, planning, scheming, surmising against you? That's how I feel. And I just think that it's one of those things where I'm glad the liberals are as open and upfront about it as it is. And we're going to talk about all the craziness. But it just seems to me with this cold front that blew through, it instilled a lot of fear into a lot of different people. And for me, I don't have time for fear. I don't know about you all, but it just seems the younger and younger these kids are, the more fearful they become. I'm not sure where it's coming from. I'm not sure if it's mama and dad not giving them the, uh, the feedback they need, the upbringing that they need. I'm not sure if it's their cellular device. I'm sure it has a little bit to do with it, but just the fear. And yeah, it's cold. I'll tell you what, I went with drive with my daughter yesterday down Midway, and to see all the ice on the trees and glistening like that, man, it was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous. We really had a good drive. We got to take care of some things. So if the government can shut down, that's all right. But you know what? Those small businesses, those farmers, they're out there working. And I'm just grateful and thankful for all the farmers out there, all of us. And I know some of you up there in Oxford, oh my goodness, just the down power trees. I hope all my friends up there in Oxford are doing well and okay. Seems like they got the worst brunt of it. But there's really only one place to start, ladies and gentlemen, and that is with the Attorney General. And I'm just gonna play this clip, and we're gonna talk about it.
Homicide, rape, homicide, manslaughter. That's who they're trying to protect in Minnesota. I do not understand these people.
No one understands what the heck's going on in Minnesota because why? You've got a bunch of illegal immigrants who voted in an election, and now you've got some of the most incompetent political leadership in the history of America. But what are we gonna do about it?
Sent Governor Walz a very strong letter today.
Oh my goodness, they sent a very strong letter. That'll learn them. Don't you know? That'll learn them. The mass formation psychosis that's going on right now in this country is just beyond me. I truly do not get how people just a lick of common sense. These people are gonna look at that letter and go, and throw it in the circular file. And I am not belittling the agents who are out there in the cold, on the ground, doing the work, but our Department of Justice, our whole legal system is a shambles. It is a absolute disgrace. How can these this open insurrection, this open rebellion, this open civil war that they're declaring on America. How can we continue to tolerate it? One of the things I learned on my research over the weekend, while we were all iced in, snowed in, whatever, was the blue slip. Have you ever heard of a blue slip before? I know that there's some of you who have, and many of you who haven't. But a blue slip is something that a senator can put in to the president of the Senate, who in this case is Mr. Thune, and basically that senator can say, "I don't like that that you're going to put into my state. I'm going to stop it." And we've been complaining about these judges for such a long time, but that really opened my eyes to why we have a bunch of red states that are red and blue states that are blue, even though Trump put nominated that judge to go into office in that blue state. It's not necessarily a constitutionalist judge. Now, I'm not calling it a Republican judge. I'm not calling it a Democrat judge. I'm talking about a strict constitutional judge who looks at the Constitution for when it was written and what the words meant when it was written. The words that are the same word that is existing today does not necessarily mean the same thing that it meant 150, 200 years ago. That's why we have Founding Father Fridays, so we can get into the minds of our founding fathers and what were they actually thinking when they passed that bill. Our judicial system, uh, that is, like, I think the thing that is gonna cause a lot of good Americans to crack, and I've got a whole idea on how to actually frame it, but I wanna make sure before I do it, I have every fact double checked, not just through, uh, websites, not just through AI, but through some local historians as well. Because if I get this one wrong, ooh, my goodness, I'm gonna be taken to the woodshed. I need less politicians, less cabinet heads on TV, and more results. Let's look at Don Lemon. That magistrate judge was put in to a blue state just for something like this. This is why we're having all the problems in Minnesota. Why don't we have them in Texas? Why don't we have them in Mississippi? I've got the clip somewhere of our great governor, Tate Reeves, who is doing a good job, by the way. Uh, I really like what he's doing as far as standing up for our rights as Mississippians and how our rights are being placated and stripped away by states like Minnesota and California. But I also like what he's doing with response to the snowstorm. He's putting the resources into play. He's making a statement, and he's staying out of the way. Where he can help, he's helping, and where he can't, he remains silent. Where he thinks he needs to have a little bit of a push, he'll go ahead and give it, and, that's the sign of a good leader. And everybody can sit there and trash him for certain beliefs that he has, and, hey, I'm welcome to it. If you wanna sit there and give your opinion on it, that's fine. But my goodness, compared to the leadership that we have in Minnesota compared to the leadership that we have here in Mississippi, it is night and day. And the mass formation psychosis that's been perpetrated upon not just Mississippians or Minnesotans, but all of America. I mean, my personal timeline has been blowing up with really good people that I know who disagree with that. And I think that's deserving a whole 'nother segment in and of itself is the political discourse in this country. It's almost like they're distracting us. They're distracting us with this Minnesota stuff for what's actually going on in Congress, which is nothing. You know, there are constitutional remedies to get rid of these judges. You simply don't fund them anymore. But we can't do that because we have these omnibus bills that are too big, that are thousands and thousands of pages long. that even with the premium Grok upgrade, I can dump it in there, and it still takes it forever to read through and go through. How are we supposed to know what's in there? Even the most voracious reader I know can literally sit there, flip the page, da, 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 flip the page, da, 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 da. There's no way that she could read some of these bills and then actually form cogent thoughts on everything that's going on in there. It's just that they're rushing us through, trying to get us to the next crisis to avoid the real topics. And, it's funny because we're sitting here having a national debate. I won't call it a meltdown, but we're having a real national debate over 2 people who have been shot and killed by federal officers for inserting themselves into in audition to be the main character of the story. When people who are truly fighting for freedom, not these blue and green-haired freaks with nose rings, but the Iranian people, where some suggestions are now 30,000 Iranians have died. Not a peep. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't take up major time of news stories going on here in America, but when you think about the news media and the narrative that they're driving, the mass formation psychosis that's happening, dare I say Operation Mockingbird, it's real. And we've got clips of that, whether it be Trey Gowdy, Sean Hannity, Fox News, people who tell me, "Andy, you need to watch Fox News." No, I don't. And there are a lot of good Republicans out there who sit there and they get their marching orders from Fox News, and I'm telling you, they're giving you marching orders. You're just like the video game lemmings. You just follow who's in front of you. It's like the sheep leading them through the gate today. Come on, guys, follow the gate, and one decides to peel off the wrong way, and now the whole train of sheep is going the other way. Man, that is nuts. It's bad enough with 47 adult you sheep and a ram, but now you're throwing in 30 or 40 lambs. It's just like scatter. Everything's going everywhere. All the sheep are running everywhere. And it's just a disorganized mess, kind of like Fox News. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. We're going to take our first break. And when we get back, we got to talk about our immigration policy because I think the president has said some really good stuff and needs to be heard. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. Some local administrative and housekeeping notes. Tonight, there was going to be a Republican Club of Hinds County meeting in, with Speaker of the House, Jason White. It got canceled due to the cold, and it's just not gonna happen. It'll get rescheduled, and if it does, and the opportunity comes to talk about it, I definitely will. I love giving you all the opportunity to go meet local political leaders, statewide legal political leaders, and getting to have your say. I'm also talking with a couple, elected officials in the Senate and the House to try to get them on the show a little bit more often and have more regular input there. It's definitely an opportunity that exists. Commissioner Andy Gibson put out a couple, updates over the weekend, and I just wanted to pass them along. Of course, we all know about HB 828. Commissioner Gibson says the Mississippi Fair Chase Act would have stripped landowners, farmers, or hunters of a rights. Chairman Bill Kincaid informed me today that HB 828 will die in committee. So life is good with that one. We want to make sure that that goes away, and I'll continue to track it. I hope you do too. There are so many bills out there. You can definitely get on that and start going after that. Attack on homeschool rights, HB 1512. Chairman Rob Robertson informed me today that the bill will die in committee. It's really interesting. You know, it's the biggest decision that a mother and a father can make is where their kids are going to get their education from. And life is not fair, and life is not safe. If you wanna homeschool your kid because you feel it's better for your child, then you should do it. But also realize that they might not get some of the things that they would get in a public education or a private school education. But that's your choice as a parent, and the choices that you make as a parent are gonna have lifelong implications. Exhibit A, Minnesota. And if George Soros didn't have all his billions of dollars pumping up all those freaks out there, we wouldn't be having half the problems we have. And let's not forget why we are having the problems in Minnesota. It's not because of the intrepid reporting of the New York Times. It's not the fearlessness of Fox News. It is not the heart tugs of MSNBC/MS Now/BS Always. It's because of Nick Shirley, 23-year-old Jehovah Witness, doesn't drink, doesn't do drug, and is a virgin, who had the testicular fortitude to go into the lion's den and point all this out. That's why we have what's going on. And that's the real big problem for me personally. It's like, yeah, we're going after ICE, we're going after all these illegal aliens, and we should. We should have 15, 20 airplanes, wide bodies, just flying them back to Somalia, flying them back to Mogadishu. But you don't hear anything about the fraud. You know, you don't hear anything about all the billions and billions, potentially trillions and trillions of dollars that, by the way, we're suffering for here in Mississippi. Do not think for one moment that the fraud that has been perpetrated in primarily blue states doesn't actually have an impact here in Mississippi as well. We tend to get more than we give as Mississippi goes. We're made primarily an agriculture state, and we need to do that because in the event that things go south, farmers are gonna be really popular people real quick. But speaking of audits, we've got Mr. Shad White, and, he came out with a post too. See what I did there? I allow both I know Shad, I know Andy, they're both great men, and, I just wanna make sure that I get everything out there. Shad White put out this post. I've been asked if Mississippi has the same problem that we see in Minnesota child care center fraud. Today, my office released the first in a series of audits of child care centers getting taxpayer money in Mississippi. And he actually posts the audit below. He said, while we do not have anything like the size and massive fraud in Minnesota, This audit shows that programs providing funds to children's centers have big problems, just like they do everywhere else in the country. So Shad has kind of put it out there to our politicians, hey, what's going on there? We need more Nick Shirleys here in Mississippi. Some of y'all who say, "What can I do? What can I do?" You could download this audit and start investigating yourself. Because you know the mainstream media is not gonna do it. You know that the TV, you hit Mississippi Free Press, Mississippi Today, they're not gonna do anything. Magnolia Tribune might do something. Brother Russ has been firing on all cylinders lately. He usually is. He's a good guy. When asked when we asked if the kids were making learning gains, we found that the agency handling out the money did not reliably measure whether these programs achieved the minimum outcomes required by the state. Why are they getting any money if they can't even meet the minimum requirements? It's just a giant money laundering scheme in the name of the children. The children. This is why I testified before Congress years ago and told them that these programs are creating a hothouse for fraud. And it is. We simply won't have the numbers that Minnesota has because we don't have the population and we don't have the same types of illegal immigration problems that Minnesota has, although we do have it. And I will talk about the Glacier Act because there are people and if you remember, Clay Edwards last week had the senator from DeSoto County on talking about the Glacier Act, which would help supplement local law enforcement agencies when they're working with ICE. We need that. We absolutely need that. And there is a group of people out there who are actively working against it. Hard to believe. And I don't know how you all feel, but this is how I feel. With the same veracity that we got the education bill through, we should get the glacier bill through as well. Let's take a phone call. Let's see what's going on here. Go ahead. Oh, hey, you're gonna have to call right back. Wow. Yeah, please call right back. Sometimes we hit the on-air button and it's just a bad cell and it gets all crunchy, but we should be able to go ahead and have the Glacier Act passed, within a day. Stand alone, put it out of committee. President of the Senate can use his privilege to put it up there and get it through, along with all the other good bills, these big omnibus stuff, things that are going on. Still waiting to hear back on the Sharia law stuff. I know it's out there, and we'll talk about it once it actually gets dropped. Let's try this phone call one more time. I have no idea what's going on with the phone system, but it's being crunchy and dicey. I'll try one more here. Hey, go ahead. This is a lot better. Turn down your radio. Turn down your radio.
Okay, I'm gonna just leave out of the room. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so you said that Fox News is not accurate. Now, that's what I listen to most of the time. I listen to some of the other stations too, but really, where do you go for your news?
So what I go to is I use X, and I use individual journalists, whether that be someone like Nick Sordo, who's on the ground, Nick Shirley. I will follow Magnolia Tribune. I don't like this is gonna shock you, but I don't have any TV at my house. No cable, no nothing. I have the internet. And so I curate my news going to different YouTube channels to watch the segments, but I don't trust Fox News farther than I can throw it.
Yeah, I kind of figured I shouldn't, but I have been relying on them for a while now. And a lot of what they say makes sense. But then if it's something else that I can go to that's going to give me lines on the, y'all need to talk about that more so that you can let people know that's not where you get your news. Fox News, CNN, ABC, all those stations need to be discussed.
Ye
on the radio. And I don't know if I'm giving you something else to deal with, but y'all need to have a whole hour. Each show of y'all's need to have a whole hour telling us where we need to go for our news source, because we are being misled by a lot of people, and it's ridiculous. It makes me angry.
Yep,
So
ma'am.
that's why I'm calling you.
Yeah, well, let me give you a couple different options here. You have One America News, ONE. Um,
Yeah, I watched that.
you have, um, Newsmax. That's one. But the thing is I can
I do watch that.
and there's those are on the right. I will get clips via X from places like The View and ABC and NBC. I will watch that because I wanna have a well-rounded view. I wanna make sure I understand
Exactly.
both sides, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
but I don't wanna give them any of my advertising dollars either. I don't wanna give ABC another nickel. Um,
Not another.
nope. So
Well, this is Lacey. I was just calling because you just threw me off my game when you said that I shouldn't be watching Fox. I mean, I watch it because, like you said, you want to be well-rounded.
Mhm.
But how do you well-round yourself when you got so much fakeness? What's the word when they lie on the news? I can't think of it right now.
Fake news,
Uh,
indoctrination.
No, that's not what the word, but
Mm,
that'll work if you say so.
yep.
I trust you guys because I don't know. I just feel like y'all are the ones to listen to it and believe, because y'all are more like what civilized, what's really going on. These folks is getting PAID big time for all these lies. They need to be shut down, and I'm sorry.
Oh, you're right.
I'm so sick of it.
I'm right there with you, sister. I really am. And, if it get on X, and there's you can follow me because go ahead and repost a lot of news stories, but you can also go to a website called Citizen Free Press. Now, it's to the right, but they have really
Mm.
good stories, and they'll call out the right as much as they praise the right, and that's all we
Yeah, but
really want,
I
right?
want them to. I want somebody that's going to expose the right as well as the left, because it's so unbalanced when you got your people sitting there listening to one side and the other is saying something different, and it may be true. That's not fair. It's unfair. It's ungodly, and it should be exposed of.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head right there, Miss Lacy, when you said it's ungodly, and, that's why we're having so many of the problems we're having today. We're just not being forget godly, we're not even being respectful to each other, you know?
That's right. That is so true. That is so true. But I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Me too, Miss Lacy.
Yes, you tell Clay and Kim I said hello.
I promise I will, I promise. I'll do that today.
All right, I'll be looking forward to it.
Miss Lacy, you're awesome. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. Those are the kind of calls that make my day and say, "Yep, Andy, you're doing it right." When you got someone like Miss Lacy out there calling in. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Absolutely love being here when I'm getting calls from like that from Miss Lacy. There are all sorts of places for you to go, Miss Lacy. Um, I really recommend not just going into your silo. So if you're on the left and you're only consuming left-wing media, you're not getting the full story. Just like if you're on the right and you're only consuming right-wing media, you're not getting the full story. You have to get all sides. But the one thing I don't want to mislead anybody in saying is don't think for 1 second every mainstream media outlet out there, all your local affiliates, whether that be ABC, CBS, NBC, whether that be the big cable news networks, MS Now slash BS Always, CNN, and Fox News, um, they are all lying their, ooh, I almost cussed. They're lying their rear ends off. I mean, their lips are moving, they're lying. And that's just how I feel, especially with local media. They, they, it's almost like it's the minimum requirement. But let's not forget CBS News, sponsored by Pfizer, poisoning people since 2020. Long before that, that's just their COVID vaccination. But you get the point. You have to go out and you have to look, and I think that's where they have the American people by the short hairs. What is it? 2, 3% of the population actively go out to find news, or they can get on their anxiety device, sit there and get all the weather updates and get scared to hell. They can spend hours scrolling on TikTok and Insta, not really educating their minds. You can see it in the kids. I see it, with my daughter, when that phone is down and she's out working, with the sheep and the chickens, or if she's out doing volleyball with her friends, you can totally see the difference in her brain from when she's sitting there after she got a day and she's just sitting there scroll, 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 scroll. Y I mean, there's a huge difference there. And, I mean, I have to be truthful with myself too. Am I politically lazy because I don't go out there and work really hard to find new election judges for the upcoming primary because I'm sitting at home and resting and recovering? Am I part of that lazy generation? And I'm not just talking by generation, I don't mean age, I mean digital. It's so easy to get compromised, and next thing you know, you're wasting all your time doing something that has absolutely no productivity. You're not really producing anything, and you're sucked down one of these media black holes that, very few people escape from. But speaking of fairness, you remember how Miss Lacy said some things were not fair? Do you know what might be coming back? For all of those who listen to Maharishi El Rushbo, the great one, do you remember his war against the Fairness Act? It might be coming back under the Trump administration. Can you believe it? What would that do for local radio here? N you know, my phone line is open to all elected officials, Republicans, Democrats, left, right, it's open. But the Fairness Act would require us to give equal time at the cost of view listenership, advertising dollars, and what this is stemming from is from late night comedy shows. And this would be my plea to the administration, and just hear me out. Capitalism works. The only reason those late night shows are still on is because you're allowing fraudulent tax dollars to go to all these NGOs that then go to prop up the commercials and in those TV shows. Look at how Hollywood is absolutely in flames. And I'll use my favorite franchise of all time, Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars nerd. I've read so many of the books, seen all the movies. I'm really enjoying, quite frankly, the AI shorts because they're better than anything that Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm have done since they took over the show. But Hollywood is in flames. It's dying. Why? Because it's got the woke mind virus and nobody wants to watch that stuff. No one wants to read that stuff. No one wants to have their heroes turn into bisexual bisexuals or homosexuals. No one wants it. No one's buying it. If you let the free market regulate itself, it's going to do that, but it's when you start artificially injecting capital into certain things. I was watching and I know this came from the YouTube channel WDW Pro, but it was saying that California was getting a 3-to-1 tax deduction. So, the studios that stayed in California, if they spent $1,000,000, they could actually deduct $3,000,000. If they spent $5,000,000, they could actually deduct $15,000,000. See how that works? All that government greed and corruption, the graft. I had a college professor, he would always talk about the graft, and I never understood it, and, he was an older guy, in the '90s. He could remember the Great Depression, he could go through all of that. Great professor, great teacher, but he would always complain about the graft. It was a history course at St. Leo University, and I'll never forget it. It was great stuff. He had recollection of, how the South was being reconstructed and some of the problems he had. He wasn't from Mississippi, he was, I believe, from Alabama. Great dude, but it just goes to show you, you sit there and you put all this government money into something, it's gonna end up getting corrupt, it's gonna be artificially lifted up. Another example of this besides Hollywood, how about our military industrial complex? How many times do we have to bail out Boeing? How many times do we have to bail out Lockheed Martin? There are new groups of military defense contractors who are small, agile, nimble, who are designing things that are so incredible, and you can go Google them and YouTube them and go find out about it, but they're building some really great technology that we don't have to have enormous black budgets for, that go into black holes. Where'd this $2 billion or $200 billion go? Oh, it went to the black budget. Okay, guess I'm not supposed to worry about it anymore. We talk about defense, then we'll talk about Minnesota, then we'll talk about the budget, then we'll talk about entertainment, and they just have us we're like a dog chasing our tail. At some point, you just gotta stop spinning and say, "Look, we've had enough of this." That's why it's important to get out and vote in the primary, and in Hinds County, we're still looking for election judges. If that's something you wanna do, definitely let me know because I would love to be able to help you out. The more new people we get into the system, the harder it is to cheat it, especially at the local level. It's harder to do that kind of stuff. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We're gonna take our last break of the first hour. We will be right back.
No.
How would that happen?
Yeah, we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show. Brother Dogfish checking in the chat and was asking about the Pam Bondi sent a letter quote, and didn't get a chance to hear that. So let's listen to Pam one more time. It's really that good because this is the righteous indignation we need to set our country straight. We need more letters. We need more stern warnings on Fox News, like Sister Lacey was talking about. You know, I'm just teasing, Miss Lacey. I know that you're out there fighting the good fight. This is from Fox News. Attorney General Pam Bondi on Minnesota CBP shooting.
Rape, homicide, manslaughter. That's who they're trying to protect in Minnesota. I do not understand these people. We sent Governor Walz a very strong letter today. We had been working on this letter. We got it out saying that he better support President Trump.
He better
support the men and women in law enforcement, because if he doesn't, we are. And that's.
Does anybody believe that garbage? I mean, seriously, does anybody believe that at all? When we think about all of the things that have happened just since Pam Bondi's been sworn in, that have not been prosecuted. I mean, they passed a law that was signed by the president to release the Epstein files, and like 98% of it is still not been put out there. No one's really talking about it. There's no protests about it. You know, you look at Minnesota, and it's the one thing that I've got to give the left credit for. They know how to fire people up and get out there and protest. I'll tell you what, if the right decided to go full West Ham United like the left and start protesting the Epstein files, and there were just thousands and thousands of people all around in individual cities complaining about this, it would be very different. But number one, the political right doesn't have sugar daddies like George Soros and the Walmart heiress and Silicon Valley propping them up. And number two is the right is just worried about keeping their head down and keeping their small businesses going. We do have Uncle Elon out there who's trying to do some things, but he's just one guy. Sometimes you need more than just one guy, no matter how well off he might be. Just for me personally, I'm not holding my breath for anything that's coming out of DOJ. I know at some point the broken clock is going to be right, and everybody be sitting there, you know, going off the top rope, WWE style, giving me the elbow drop. Not even WWE style. Let's go back to WWF. Superfly Jimmy Snuka going ahead and jumping off the top rope, doing something like that, the flying headbutt. Oh, I know that at some point the broken clock will be right. But then I'll look back and think about all the other opportunities that were squandered and wasted away. Brother Bruce actually texted in too, and he goes, "You know, this whole distraction in Minnesota is blocking what's really happening in New York City and in the Commonwealth of Virginia." I'm not sure if you guys have looked at some of the craziness that's coming out of Virginia. It's truly like the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact back in, this is like East Germany type of stuff. People saying Epstein is a lot more than just a pedo ring. The real story is out there, but it will never be addressed. Yep. Kind of agree with that. Kind of agree with that. We're getting ready to come to the top of the hour here. I'm so grateful and thankful for everybody who's tuned in and texted. In the next hour, I really want to focus on the local stuff and see if I can get there, but how we can be election judges, how we can start preparing for 2028 and 2027. There's good stuff that we can do. Everything's not gloom and doom out there. I refuse to be black-pilled, but I'm not going to fall for the BS either. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB.
CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
Local news and weather brought to you by Mississippi Energy Services. For your fast, affordable, and friendly generator service company, msenergy.us. msenergy.us.
It's been a long, cold, lonely winter, at least the last few days. Today, sunny and 44. Tonight, it's clear with a low at 24. Sunny and 47 Wednesday. Thursday, it's up to 52. More cold air is expected over the weekend, though. You've got news on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis.
It's somewhat like whack-a-mole. Every time one of the utility companies and power companies gets a large group back online, we have another tree fall or we have another limb fall. That doesn't mean that people aren't working and working very hard and doing it in a safe way.
Governor Reeves describing some of the big frustrations with power restoration in some of the hardest hit counties, which are mostly in the Delta and North Mississippi. To help make sure that those people get what they need, he signed an order deploying 500 National Guard troops to the area.
We'll be focusing on logistics, mainly getting water, food, distribution points, whether it be by wheel vehicles or by air if need be, generators by air if need be.
Adjutant General Bobby Ginn. So far, 2 people have been reported dead because of the storm, and those were in Hinds and Tishomingo counties. As far as schools go, most are back in session today in the metro, with the exception of Hinds County schools. Ole Miss is expected to be closed through the rest of the week because of extensive damage and power failures. Meanwhile, in the areas served by Entergy, they gave an update Monday saying if you live in Clinton, Vicksburg, or Madison, your power should be restored by Wednesday. They've been dealing with 234 snapped light poles and 13 transmission lines down that go from the power plants to the substations. More news in 1 hour on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are the individual views and opinions of the people expressing.
Yeah, you are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show, hour 2 on the 27th of January, 2026. And we are streaming on Rumble, and we are streaming on X, and we are streaming on YouTube, and we are streaming at WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the radio signal, hey, just pick us up on the stream. You know, it's finally getting above 32 degrees here in Mississippi, and that sun radiation is going to come down and start melting all the ice that's on our antenna. It's going to be all right. Just got to chillax a little bit. Miss Lacey, if you're not on X, you need to be. And then give me a follow at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. If you want to be part of the program today, the number is 601-879-0002. The text line is open at 601-879-5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. Yep. And look, it's true yesterday, it's true today, it'll be true tomorrow, and true forever. Better is an open rebuke than a hidden love. And faithful are the wounds of a friend. Profuse are the kisses of the enemy. There was a saying in the Navy, I obviously can't say it on the radio, but I'll never forget it. And, you don't want the kiss of an enemy. You really don't. Well, we got some local stuff to work into, and with that, it's the illegal immigration and the Glacier Act. And the president came out with a great speech, and I just thought it was really good. He was talking about those who are in the immigrants' rights community, the illegal alien lovers, who have argued passionately. They've been out there, whether it's on Fox, whether it's on NBC, no matter where it is, saying that, they should be given legal status, that we should be doing mass amnesty. Who are they kidding? Does anybody remember when President Reagan did that first mass amnesty back in, I think it was 84 or 85? We do not want that mass amnesty. We do not want to give them legal status. We don't want to give those people in Minnesota legal status. They're here illegally. They've violated the laws of the United States of America. They ignore the laws that not only are in the United States of America, but now we have judges who aren't immigration judges inserting themselves into the plot. Now you're having regular courts trying to take jurisdiction of immigration cases. And it's happening. And then we get all fired up and upset because we can't get rid of some of the worst of the worst. And again, our mainstream media refuses to tell us that. They'll give us a sob story about a trauma nurse who decided to play G.I. Joe on a weekend or on a weekday. I don't remember what even day it was, but it doesn't matter. What kind of fool inserts himself into a police operation like that? Even if I disagreed with it, I sure as heck wouldn't get myself inserted into that. I digress. And they always try to play the morality card, right? They always try to take the moral high ground, these leftists who don't have God, who can't explain where their morals come from. It's just how they feel. It's the feels. Why should we punish people who are just trying to get a better life from themselves? America says, give us, you're poor, you're tired, you're hungry. We take everybody. We do. But you have to do it legally. You can't sit there and just go in here and make it yourself. And again, this goes back to the left being compassionate, not thinking about things logically or through, but just how they feel in the heat of the moment, the passion of the moment. But I think that's incorrect approach to sit there. Not only would it be unwise, but it would be unfair. And that's why you're seeing so many of the Hispanic community actually supporting ICE and illegal immigrants being deported. It's because it's not fair to them who went and got in line and waited. There are millions and millions, not hundreds, but probably tens of millions of people who would love to come to America legally, who would actually conform to American ideas, want to be Americans, not hyphenated Americans like the left is putting out there. And it really doesn't matter if you're here illegally. It doesn't matter whether you're a doctor, a restaurant owner, whatever. Nope, you're here illegally. You got to go. And we're paying them money. The president pointed out that we're paying them money to leave. It's actually wise. It's a lot easier to give somebody $2,000 and a plane ticket back to wherever they came from than to sit there and do these operations in blue cities where people just feel that they need to go ahead and disrupt the rule of law. Never mind that they're benefiting from the very same, uh, the very same laws and economic environment that most illegal aliens are trying to get to because their home countries don't have that. Perfect example, Mogadishu, Somalia. The fraud and the waste over there, it's absolutely terrible. You know, it just goes to show you that America, despite what the left is telling us, despite what the media is telling us, is a really great place to live. I mean, even in this big ice storm, we're rebounding from it quickly. We live in a great country. We all have cell phone status. We all have cell phones working. We're able to communicate. You know, no one is helping out the United States in this ice storm. Well, that's not true. I think Canada sent some linemen, which is actually kind of cool. But enough about me talking. Maybe we should just let the president of the United States speak for himself. Probably be a better idea, don't you think? Ladies and gentlemen, the president.
There are those in the immigrants' rights community who have argued passionately that we should simply provide those who are illegally with legal status, or at least ignore the laws on the books and put an end to deportation until we have better laws. And often this argument is framed in moral terms. Why should we punish people who are just trying to earn a living? I recognize the sense of compassion that drives this argument. But I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. It would suggest to those thinking about coming here illegally that there will be no repercussions for such a decision. And this could lead to a surge in more illegal immigration. And it would also ignore the millions of people around the world who are waiting in line to come here legally. Ultimately, our nation, like all nations, has the right and obligation to control its borders and set laws for residency and citizenship. And no matter how decent they are, no matter their reasons, the 11 million who broke these laws should be held accountable.
If I would have told you that was President Barack Hussein Obama before I started my top of the hour monologue, nobody would have believed me. That was President Obama in 2010, right before, just as he was starting to ramp up his re-election run. America was a different place back then. And the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris regime, illegal regime, we now know that was stolen. The election was stolen in 2020 via Georgia in Fulton County. Now we've got 4 years, and I was just asking Chris, how do we do this? How do we undo complete 4 years of Banana Republic? We had a president who cheated to get into that Oval Office. And think about what that crazy woman, Dr. Jill Biden, did during the Christmas holiday with the rainbow supremacy crowd. We normalized debauchery. We normalized childish behavior. We normalized things that should never be normalized. And now we're all paying for it. And people who, it's just amazing how the timeline goes, how we shouldn't be fighting for our own border. Well, in the current real world, places like England, France, Germany, They don't fight for their culture, but we need to. We're Americans. But like Ronald Reagan said, we're just one generation away from losing it all. And, the Zoomers might be that generation. There's really great people out there, people like Blake, who can articulate that notion. There were people who were crossing the aisle, people like Charlie, who had absolutely no problem going into the lion's den. What's happened to the investigation with Charlie? What's going on there too? Again, it was just used as a momentary distraction. A great American lost his life for what now is just nothing more than a momentary distraction. And I remember when technology used to be a real blessing to humanity back in the late 80s, 90s, early 2000s. But now it's a hindrance. How about that iPhone iOS update? Everybody liking the new iPhone update? The Sweet Bee absolutely hates it. I hate it. My daughter hates it. How about the new Windows 11 update? You, and this really doesn't concern you, but literally, so how I show prep it is I have all my tabs open, and I have my stories all laid out. And literally 3 minutes before I start the show, Windows decides it wants to try to update and just shuts everything down. And when you go to hit restore, all the tabs are gone. Everything's just a mess. And technology is more of a hindrance. Dare I say it's even more harmful. And by the way, for those of you who are saying MS now is now using AI doctored photos, all the mainstream media is using AI doctored photos. CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox News, CNN, MS Now. They're all doing it. So it's not like it's a right wing or a left wing conspiracy. That's how it is. Think about this, all of us who are in our 40s and 50s. We never really had to worry about a deep fake video. But they're out there now. And they can be used to manipulate millions, billions of people. And it'll go around the world 100 times before we realize, hey, this is fake. Much like one of the pictures of that guy who decided he was gonna try to get involved in a ICE operation in Minnesota. And then all of a sudden, the story doesn't become what the real story should be, a moron getting involved in a police action. Now it becomes, "Oh, this image was doctored," and it completely throws off the whole narrative. And it's just gonna be more difficult and more difficult, which is why I'm talking about focusing on things that are here locally. And that's why I really appreciate my local news sources. Like this story from Frank Corder in the Magnolia Tribune. Absentee voting opens ahead of March 10 midterm primary elections. Yep. So if you know you're gonna be out of the country, like I know my wife will be out of the country, she can walk down to the Hinds County clerk, stroll right in, and vote. The last day to vote in person absentee is March 7th, while mail-in absentee ballots must be postmarked on or before March 10th. And, the whole mail-in ballot thing is a fraud and a scheme. Why is it that the United States is the only one that has that? I do not mind the in-person absentee voting. You walk in and go ahead and vote. That's all right. But this mail-in voting stuff, here, let's take this call. Go ahead, caller.
My brother, how are you?
My brother, you know what? It's cold this morning, and the sheep decided in the coldest cold snap of the year that's when we're gonna start dropping lambs. I think we had 16 this morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good stuff. That's good stuff though, brother.
Hey, you're gonna have to come over. We're gonna have to do some eating. We're gonna invite one of them to Easter.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Addressing a couple things with the AI,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's why Scripture tells you that if you hear something about your brother, you go to him. You don't repeat it.
Yep.
You go to him and ask him, "Is this true, brother? Let's pray about this," because the way they can recreate things and put things on different social websites, dude, they can have a picture of you, doing anything. So it's ridiculous.
It really is.
But wanted to talk about the ever confusing circumstance with the gentleman who got killed who was carrying a weapon.
Yep.
And there were a number of speculations about that. But, I got into big trouble with my daughter several years ago. She was in school in Southern Mississippi, and she came home. She was upset because a young man had made a move on her at a party. Mad. And I said, "Well, baby, were you required to be here because of your sorority?" "Well, no. They do swaps and meets and all this other business."
Yep.
She said, "No." She said, "No." And I said, "Okay, well, did you know they were going to be serving alcohol?" "Well, yeah." "Okay. Did you know they were going to be college-age boys there?" "Well, yeah." "Okay. So why are you there?" "I knew you were going to take his side." I said, "Baby, you've got to make better choices. Where are you? Why are you here? And what can happen?" Those are the same questions this guy has to ask himself. Why am I here carrying a weapon in the middle of an ICE operation? Just think about it.
I mean, for people like you and me, brother, it's an issue of common sense. I mean, even if I had a problem with it, and I see a bunch of armed men gang tackling somebody, I have to make that decision. Am I going to insert myself into that situation, or am I going to walk away or film it and go get my attorney? I'm not going to go up against some burly ICE agents. He's just trying to get himself put into the story, and he did.
They say the best offense is a good defense. When somebody tries to hit you or punch you in martial arts, if you move and you avoid that punch, you're not there. Don't be there.
Yep.
Don't be there in those circumstances. Make better choices. You know what's going on. You have any business there? Don't show up in that area. It's just common sense, and it's just so much speculation. But, unfortunately, the anxiety devices have removed our ability to think with common sense.
Anxiety devices have replaced the parents. There's no
no doubt.
There's no way that my kids would ever do that. In fact, I've talked to all of them, and we've all said that was a dumb move, man. I'll give you the last word, my friend. We're coming up to a break. What else you got?
That's it. God bless you, brother. Talk to you later.
Yep. God bless you too. I always appreciate well thought out phone calls like that. And yeah, I mean, that guy, no common sense, just like many of the people out there, no common sense, but they don't know any better. They weren't taught right from wrong, but they feel it. It's in their heart. They feel it. When we get back, we're going to talk about some more good bills that are coming down the pipe, because I'm not just black pilled. I'm not black pilled at all, actually. I'm actually looking forward to some of this stuff coming to light. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. I love Depeche Mode. It just makes me happy. This is coming from the Magnolia Tribune. Daniel Tyson. Senate bill will require all state, local public bodies to stream their meetings. Oh, how great that would be. This is a real sore spot for me because when I was elected as a highway commissioner, I wanted to stream all the meetings. I wanted everybody to go through every one of my bills, and it was like pulling teeth to get it done. The clerk didn't wanna do it. She was corrupt as hell. She wanted to take over me streaming my own stream, and she wanted to have control of it because she was the clerk. She was just a crazy lady. But this would be great. Think about this. If you can't make a school board meeting because it's at 7:30 on a Wednesday, you can go back and catch the live stream. We could clip it up. I mean, that's good content for WYAB, especially for someone like me who's really I know I talk about the national issues a lot, but locally, this is great stuff. The Senate Government Structure Committee moved a bill forward late last week to improve transparency in Mississippi state and local governments. However, the legislation is expected to meet stiff opposition in the House. The, the bill, SB 2259, called the People's Access Act. So that's something that all of us digital rangers out there need to go download this and throw it into our AI and see what's all in there, because you know that there's probably going to be a little bit more than just the People's Access Act. Requires official meetings of any public body to be broadcast by live stream video applications. And look, this is not going to cost the government extra money. Clay Edwards, out of his own pocket, we are streaming in full K, as he likes to say. Not really, it's more like 1080p, I think, but, I mean, still for a public government, we're not looking for Grammy level production here. I mean, if you really wanted to get special, you could maybe get double cameras and have a soundboard, but you really don't need just put it up there. The 4-page bill outlines well, that's good, it's only 4 pages, outlines that the votes taken at teleconference or video meetings should be clearly audible or visible, and I'm okay with that too. As long as the audio's good, like, so if when I put out videos and stuff, I can have the best video production, but if the sound stinks, people tune out almost immediately. So so sound quality's gotta be paramount. Who gets the credit for this? Committee Chairman State Senator Tyler McLaughlin said it's the only right thing to do to open the doors in the public meetings. McLaughlin co-authored the video along with Senators Bart Williams, don't know him, and Nicole Boyd, don't know her. Senator Boyd said the bill would make meeting public bodies at the state and local level more accessible. And she's right. And we got our very good friend of the show, Fred Shanks, is in this story. The Senate podcasts all of its committee meetings in the Capitol, but the House does not. At a press conference in November, House Rules Chairman Fred Shanks said that there has been no discussions of live streaming their meetings. And look, maybe if there hasn't been discussion, maybe it should be. And Fred's a great guy, man. We're not calling him out or anything. He's got this. And if you want to see that happen, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but this is why you get to know your state reps. And if you have a Fruit Loop of a state rep like I do, well, you go meet other state reps. There are really great state reps out there. And honestly, I'll talk to any of them. But I think that this is a bill that would really be good. And you can get it for like the Senate, the Mississippi Senate and the Mississippi House. That's great. But where like your county board meetings or your school board meetings or your education board meeting, or I'm sorry, your electoral college or electoral board meetings, all these little different government agencies that maybe only have 4 meetings a year and they move hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. The sunlight is a beautiful thing. There was a lady, oh man, what county was that? Tupelo, whatever county Tupelo's in. They tried to go ahead and pass a mobile home ordinance where they couldn't do it. And this lady just went live on her Facebook, and the next thing you know, she had 100,000 people following her, and she was actually the main news source. Miss Lacey, you could be the main news source for the Hine County Board of Education. Go there and live stream that. We'll get you on the radio. We'll put you in the seat. We'll let you do your reporting. You're much more reliable and trustworthy than a lot of these journalists out there. Most of them. I say 99.9. And with that 0.1%, you are just as credible as they are. That's how we take our government back. I am under no illusion that we have any control over anything that's happening in Mississippi, or I'm sorry, in Minnesota. But we have everything under our control here in Mississippi. But it's hard to teach that when civics in our public education has failed us for the past 40 years. When you've got people in their 50s who still have never voted in their life. I think about that sometimes, and I mean, I'm being 100 with you here. I can remember freezing my butt off at the gym in Kabul, getting ready to go on my next rep, and thinking about all the people that died for the other people to have their freedom to vote, and they never exercise it. I get misty. I think about friends. You know, all gave some, but some gave all. And I think about that. And then I get these black pill people texting me worrying about stuff that they have absolutely no control over. And they're just taking their toys and they're throwing them out. They're taking the board game and throwing it against the wall. That made you feel good for about all of 0.2 seconds. Now what? It's one thing to want to go ahead and make meaningful change, and it's another thing just to throw a snowball or a hand grenade. I don't want to be any part of that. And just another quick service announcement, because I did get 2 texts asking me where the meeting was tonight. The meeting tonight for the Hines County Republican Club is canceled. Speaker Jason White was supposed to be there. Hopefully, they can get that rescheduled. But we're still looking for election judges. So if you want to be an election judge, don't hesitate. Shoot me a text at 601-879-5060. I'll hook you up. I'll make sure you get the training you need. And that's how we start to take back our country. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Yeah, I love that song, man. Only in America. We've got so much really uh g- so many good things going on here inside Mississippi and America. I don't want to get bogged down with all the stuff and the negativity. Focusing on the stuff that we can take care of, that's the way to go. I think that's the way to do it. And you know, we talked about it a little bit, but uh with Chad White coming out and pointing out all of this suspected irregularities with our childcare stuff. I hope our state reps and state senators can take that seriously. Not that we want to sit there and drag anybody over the coals. There might be some people out there who enjoy that kind of thing, but not me. But if we've got a problem, we need to fix it. That's what we need to do. And this is a story that came out, and I really wasn't paying much attention to it. To be fair and give Clay Edwards his due, I was guest hosting for Jameson when Jody Owens and Mayor Lubumba were indicted or raided by the FBI. I literally went on the air and Clay said, "Hey, here you go." Clay, I'll never forget that. And I was just like, "Holy cow, this is crazy." Well, the, there's been movement in that case, and some of the evidence has been sealed by the judge, but not before a bunch of local intrepid reporters could download the stuff. And if you go to Jackson Jambalaya, the brother Kingfish out there doing great work. There's a story called Bribery in Jackson. I would say yes, yes, there is. Not only is there a case of bribery in Jackson, but it's everywhere. It's not just to Jackson. And I'm not saying every politician is crooked, but it's just a culture that is out there. And it might not be necessarily like here's $500 for your campaign. There might be other ways it does it. But Owens filed a motion to dismiss with supporting memorandum and 47 exhibits Monday in U.S. District Court. The Justice Department almost immediately asked U.S. District Judge Daniel P. Jordan to seal the filing the same day, claiming it violated a protective order. Judge Jordan granted the request and sealed it, but everybody downloaded it, and I believe it's like a PDF file. One thing I really like about local media and people who don't have these high production values where their website looks all clean and pristine. Kingfish just putting it out there and trusting on your good judgment and common sense to make of it what you will. And we need more people like that. So, Miss Lacey, again, this is an opportunity not just for you, but for people who really want to get involved. And you don't have to be someone with a big expensive rig or anything. You can go full Nick Shirley. I believe he shot that with the iPhone 16. He didn't even have the 17. He had one of those, what are they called? Selfie stick or something like that. I don't know. I don't have one. But I mean, you don't have to have this big initial financial outlay and investment into your own reporting. And the thing about it is do you when I really first started getting into this, I was really big into the space movement, especially coming out of the Air Force back in 2008 and 2009. I can talk about this. We were really starting to use satellite communication for all sorts of neat stuff, and that just kind of drew me into that. And when Uncle Elon was talking about reusable rockets and having a space-based internet, I was I wasn't thinking about it for 2026 purposes and TikTok and Facebook and X. I was thinking, man, if I had some capability when I was out there in the soup, being able to communicate, man, this would be really great. So that's what kind of sucked me into that. And then you fast forward to like the hurricane in North Carolina, where only people with Starlink were being able to communicate because the cell phone towers were down, the power was gone. But if you had a generator and a Starlink, you had communications with the outside world. That's the good stuff that America does, you know? That's the good stuff. There was, a couple getting with this mainstream media, The Wall Street Journal came out with this piece telling Trump to back off. Again, and I've only talked about the TV and the cable news, but it's the print media too. Wall Street Journal, supposedly a conservative voice of reason, telling Trump to back off. Go read those comments on there. As I look at the grassroots movement, and by the way, this isn't just a right wing. I know it's a left-leaning thing too, but it's bigger than that. It's not left and right, it's up and down. There's the political class and then the rest of us. And I have also said that there's a ultra tier above the political class. When you're a trillionaire or billionaire and you can burn Benjamins for funsies, that puts you in a rare spot, like a George Soros. Again, and I'm just kinda hitting stories that I did a lot of show prep for, but I didn't necessarily have time to go into depth like I wanted to. But we all know that the judges are corrupt. Trump administration wins court victory freeing ICE agents from Minnesota protest restrictions. Do you know that there was a federal judge who said ICE couldn't use non-lethal force, i.e. pepper spray, to crowd control? Yes, it's true. Federal appeals court sided with the Trump administration Monday in a ruling that blocks restrictions on tactics being used by U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement ICE agents while dealing with anti-ICE agitators in Minnesota. So now they can just get pepper sprayed instead of getting shot, if that's what it is. But there's a whole nother point to this, and we'll talk about that in a second. The ruling by a 3-judge panel in the U.S. 8th Circuit Court of Appeals put a stay on a lower court ruling that prevented officers from arresting, detaining, pepper spraying, and retaliating against protesters in Minneapolis without probable cause, as anti-ICE agitators continue to confront authorities carrying out enforcement operations. That is one heck of a sentence. And through this whole thing, it doesn't even tell who the judge who placed it in there. It's absolutely disgusting. But this is the important point right here. Liberal judges who believe that and I'm adding this part, liberal judges, Andy edit, who believe that the Constitution is a living, breathing document, tried to handcuff our federal law enforcement officers, restrict their actions, and put their safety at risk when responding to violent agitators, she wrote on X. The DOJ went to the court, got a temporary stay. Now the 8th Circuit Court has fully agreed that this reckless attempt to undermine law enforcement cannot stand. Oh, here it is. They put, again, this is journalism, real live on the radio here, WYAB 103.9. It is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th paragraph down after a picture and a multi-page PDF. Eighth paragraph down. In a January 16th ruling, U.S. District Judge Kate Menendez sided with the protesters. So let's just click on her picture here and see what she says. Oh, they don't even pull up her picture. That should be a shame. But so you think about it. For 11 days, we had no ability to employ pepper spray to try to de-escalate that. Imagine it. This pretty guy, this pretty nurse. He potentially would have been alive. They could have just pepper sprayed him at range. I mean, some of that stuff can shoot really far away, and it's not fun. Ghost pepper to the eyes is not fun. And this is the kind of stuff that just puts off so many Americans who realize that they know that they shouldn't be involved. They avoid the protest area. I mean, I haven't talked to some of my friends over since the ice storm hit, but they've modified their traveling in and around Minneapolis. There's a shanty village that's going up, a new Chaz, if you will. I don't know what it's exactly being called. But that needs to just be completely smashed and take down right away. You can't have an autonomous operating zone for these protesters. And we, quite frankly, expect our local police and our local law enforcement officers to go in and smash that down. It shouldn't have to be Border Patrol, Customs, and ICE and Immigration and all of that. No, this should be local, which is why Tim Walz and Mayor Fry are complete and abject disasters. But they'll never get prosecuted, even with the signal leak that was completely blown open, again, by an independent journalist. Let me tell you this, though, especially if you are a conservative or a Republican or a Christian. Do not think that your messages on Signal are safe. Do not think that your emails in Proton are safe, even if you're using a VPN and all of the gee whiz stuff. The NDAA gives the FBI and other 3 and 4 letter agencies the ability to just go right through that, and they can. You think you're encrypted and you're protected, but you're not. So even if your group is infiltrated or not infiltrated, and all of you think your communications are smooth, they're not. And I had Signal and I had Telegram, and we used them for a little bit. It is a great communication device. But when you start using that to start running license plate numbers and all that kind of stuff, you're breaking federal laws there. And this is what makes it even more maddening for me personally. If these outside ICE agitators are using Signal, then that means they are crossing state lines. And I bet you some of those state lines that are crossed might go through the state of Florida or through the state of Texas or through the state of Oklahoma or through the state of Mississippi. File charges there. I mean, that's another way to get Don Lemon if you really wanted to think about it. And that still fires me up. I was watching a couple preachers over on YouTube over the weekend, and this black preacher, I wish I had his pull quote, but man, he laid into Don Lemon and those people violating church worship service. And I know it irritates a lot of you, but let me remind you of this. Those same protections that should be given to the church in Minneapolis should be given to the Jewish synagogue right here in Mississippi. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. That mosque in Texas, you just can't ruck up in there in the middle of a service. And it doesn't, I don't know about a Jewish synagogue, but a lot of church have their own security. They're packing. The mosques, they're packing. I don't know about Jewish security. And I'm not trying to be hateful or racist or nothing like that, but I just don't know. That's another freedom that we have in America. Look, I'm going a little long. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. And we are back here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. The time just flies by. You know, I'm sitting here looking at my show prep. I got to talk about most of the stuff I wanted to get in today. You know, the dissatisfaction with PAM Bondi, President Obama's immigration stance. One thing I didn't talk about, there's a map floating around X, and I'm going to retweet it right now, or re-X it, or whatever it is that we call it. And it is the state of Mississippi or Minnesota. It is completely red with 1 or 2 blue dots. And it's just another example, an anecdotal example, I must say. But you can see exactly why the state is so screwed up. You have these massive population centers just absolutely shifting the vote. And good on Minnesota for taking, and I'm not being facetious, of course. Good on Minnesota for taking the Illinois playbook and drawing a bunch of congressional districts out of your main population source and slicing and dicing the conservative state. I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but you have the liberal Democrats saying, oh, the Republicans actually have a net loss of 1 seat. The Democrats are actually picking up 1 seat after midterm redistricting. I would remind the mainstream media, if they had any shred of credibility whatsoever, to go look at the map of New England and all those states up there with no Republican representation. Yet there's anywhere from 35 to 45% Republican in those places. There should be at least 1 Republican. Well, there should be at least 3 or 4 Republican seats out of there. But the mainstream media, they're hypocrites. They're liars. And look, we don't wanna sit there and have any confrontation with them physically. We just wanna call out their hypocrisy. We don't want violence, and that's one of the things that is, really being pushed. They want President Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act. We don't want anything to do with that. Nope. We just wanna go out there and take our country back. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate it so much. We'll be back in about 22 hours. You are listening to The Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB.